So earlier this week, Elliot Hulse posted a blog post about lazy vegan peer pressure, and he starts off the article or post about him saying he's been buying organic food for over a decade. He used to drive very far for eggs and vegetables that were organic, and he used to participate. Oh, he's currently participating in a local organic food co-op for the past 7 years, which is awesome. And he says many of the religions and philosophies from which he draws his ideas from have a no meat eating policy. Okay, that's cool, whatever. And he says, but regardless, no matter what basically any late breaking health science says or religion suggests, he still has his own eyes, brain, and common sense for making decisions. And nothing in this whole world is going to convince him otherwise. But his friend right here, his friend's like, yo bro, I got some carrots, do you want some? And Elliot's like, no man. And his friend's like, but they're good for your eyes, man. And he's thinking to himself over there, he's like, I do have an eye doctor appointment next week though. But yeah. Okay, he continues his article, his blog post about a story with his friend that he's been friends with for a long time apparently, and that he was a practicing vegan. So I think a key word here is the word practicing. So it makes it seem like he wasn't fully educated on possibly nutrition. So the reason why I say that is because he goes in to say about in the blog about his friend was, a competitive athlete. He likes to race his bike, marathon type stuff, and he hurt his elbow. And then Elliot goes in to say about his face looked morbid and his eyes were sunken and dull and he was weary. His teeth were turning brown and he started losing his hair at only 23 years old. And he decided to be upfront with him, he said, and was like, dude, the vegan diet's killing you. Which then his friend rejected, but Elliot kept applying that peer pressure. Keyword. Peer pressure. And his friend gave in. And then his friend started to incorporate meat back into his diet. And then Elliot says his elbow began to heal. And he started to feel better. And his hair was stopped falling out. And his eyes lit back up. So, okay. First off, we don't know anything about his friend here. We don't know any backstory other than he was an athlete and he was a practicing vegan. We don't know what his diet was like. We don't know if he was taking any supplements or any pre-existing issues, his genetic heritage or anything along those lines. Because, if you have a deficiency, say a B12 deficiency, one of the symptoms is pale skin, which explain his morbid look possibly, and everything like that. Another thing, he could have had a iron deficiency, because an iron deficiency will cause hair loss, as well as a few other things. So that explains a lot of his symptoms. So he makes it seem like he was just a malnourished practicing vegan, since he started incorporating meat back into his diet, which would give him the B12. And then he continues to say that he's done with the uneducated vegan peer pressure and that his friend is back to enjoying meat with a full head of hair. And then he says, look, I'm not against veganism, but he just insulted everyone by saying it's all uneducated. But he's not against it. So he's kind of backpedaling, but then he's like, I'm gonna insult you, but I'm not gonna insult you. So he's basically implying that all the talk about going vegan and plant-based is uneducated, but is all the data on climate change uneducated? There's plenty of facts about that out there. And what about all the health benefits that have been proven to lower the risk of obesity, heart disease, high blood pressure, diabetes, and cancer? There's plenty of research out there on this topic, but it's uneducated though, right? And he goes on to say one thing he's against is the weak-mindedness which causes some people to bend with peer pressure. But yet, he pressured his friend to break away from his values and start eating meat again. So it's okay for him to apply peer pressure, but not someone else. Though let's be honest here, how many of you became vegan from peer pressure? I certainly didn't. It was my morals, ethical reasons, and better health that made my decision very simple. Continuing on, he goes to say, I assume that you've done loads of research and are well familiar with the meticulous food preparation practices associated with getting complete nutrition with a plant-based, meat-free diet. I find that rather funny, and I'm not sure why food prep is meticulous though, since I'm not afraid of prepping my delicious, well-balanced, and nutritious food. Like with all diets, it isn't rocket science to eat a well-balanced, plant-based diet, or any diet for that matter. Eating a variety of vegetables, fruits, and legumes make it easy to be healthy, but as with any diet, it's important to know about specific nutrients and which foods supply them. Basic nutritional knowledge also comes in handy when there are questions from people who assume it is necessary to eat animal products for good health. And before you jump on the vegan bandwagon, he says, do a bit of research on the long-term effects of following it blindly and lazily. There is a science to eating a restricted diet which requires more than just the elimination of certain foods. And I think this should have been phrased long-term effects of malnourishment, because any diet can be lacking in essential vitamins and minerals. And I do not see a plant-based diet as restricting, because it offers a wide variety of foods. I, for one, since going plant-based, have been open to a whole new world of vegetables and fruits I would have otherwise never had even considered eating or trying. And with anything long-term diet success, you should base it on whole foods and minimally healthy processed plant proteins like tofu or tempeh, for example. They're delicious and nutritious. And also a range of diverse foods. Cultures from all over the world, whether it's Chinese, Thai, Indian, and Caribbean, for example, features such a vast array of delicious vegetables and plant-based proteins that there's really no need to ever eat the same meal twice in most cases. I find this part a little funny where he goes in to say, you will need to study soil health, food combination, learn how to cook, and invest in critical supplements that you must have. Otherwise, you might end up like so many would-be vegans who are nothing more than a malnourished zealot followers who've never eaten a stalk of broccoli but think tofu and crackers will give them life. Soil health, I think that is a two-way street. I mean, if you are concerned about soil health, then you should be worried about the food the animals are eating also that you're consuming if you're a meat eater. And food combinations, I'm assuming he means the protein myth here. But modern research has shown that it's virtually impossible to design a calorie sufficient diet based on unprocessed whole natural plant foods that is deficient in any of the amino acids. The only possible exception could be a diet based solely on fruit. And learning how to cook, what? I don't find it hard to cook my food. It's not much different than it was before I became a plant-based dieter or vegan. So where are you going with this? And supplements, if you have a well-balanced whole food plant-based diet with minimally processed vegan foods, I think you should only really need a B12 supplement or eat foods that are fortified in those nutrients. And besides, let's spit it real here. Most American meat eaters are already taking some sort of supplement anyway. And I'm sure Elliot is taking supplements of some sort also.